now listening to Vigilantes Radio, presented by the Only One Media Group. This is the people's choice for quality interviews, celebrities, and special guests. Hosted by Demetrius Dinny Reynolds. Call in to join the mix at 701-801-9813. For the complete archive of episodes, visit onlyonemediagroup.com and be sure to like us on Facebook at Vigilantes Radio. We welcome all. Enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host, Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds. Enjoy the show.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another incredible episode of Vigilantes Radio Live, right here on iHeartRadio, and I am your host, Dini. So welcome back again. This is session 2 of a conversation with Tyler Ray Mitchell. So before we get into it, don't lose sight, because this is the frequency of the fearless. This space is sacred. It's where artists don't just talk, they testify. Where every brushstroke of pain becomes a portrait of purpose. And when you've been through enough, when your art becomes your oxygen, your message doesn't whisper anymore, it roars. And if you ever felt unseen, unheard, or underestimated, this right here is for you. And this is this just ain't radio. This is revival for your mind, body, and spirit. This is Vigilantes Radio Live. Our returning guest is an artist whose voice doesn't just reach ears, it hits hearts. Tyler Ray Mitchell is back in the building, and this time it's deeper, more intentional, and even more vulnerable. From the spiritual to the sonic, Tyler has evolved into a force of emotional truth, blending raw lyricism with soul-rooted storytelling. This story isn't just about music, it's about growth, conviction, and impact. So we had a great first session, but this one's about stepping into a higher frequency. So please join me in saying welcome, friend, to the returning and ever-evolving Tyler Ray Mitchell. Hey man, what's up? Welcome back.
Hey, how's it going, man? I'm really happy and grateful to be back. Appreciate everything you're doing. I'll just say, man, I really appreciate being back, and I'm grateful to be here, man. Our conversation last time was it was good. It was fire. So I'm really happy to be back. Keep that fire going, throwing some logs on it.
Indeed, man. You were taking us higher, man, backstage. As I told you last time, man, it's like the backstage banter, man, it's sometimes a powerful thing. It's the powerful exchange, and you know, you were dropping some gems, man, some elevation for the people, if only they heard what you were saying. So I hope that we could stay in that same vein where you're taking us higher.
Yeah, one of my favorite allegories is the ghost in the elevator. He's there to lift your spirits.
Nah.
Yeah.
Right on. All right. So I guess, man, we were talking about, you know, changing your trajectory, or coming to a point where you realize, you know, you're meant to do other things, and along the way, I always tell people like this, man, if you're a light, you're going to attract those ugly bugs that come in the nighttime, you know, the ones you kind of go, ooh, it makes you shiver and shake if you're not used to the outside, are bugs. You know, the moths. I'm not saying that these bugs are ugly, but sometimes they just make you jump. They're Jeepers Creepers. You know, beetles and all that, all the buzzing. But and I don't know why they're attracted to the light, even though it's going to zap them. And over time, that light takes enough hits from these bugs, and it goes out. It's depleted. It's given all that it could as a light.
Yeah, that reminds
So
me of the candle metaphor. When behold the candle, how it gives it light, and how it gives it light, how it gives its light, it drips its
mhm,
life away, drop by drop, to give its flame. That's what that reminds me of. A little saying.
man,
But moths, man, I love moths. They're made from the dust, and they fly around, right? And they hit the light. They're like
yeah,
they go V line for light.
yeah,
If
every
only the
time,
flame didn't burn them. so
every time.
sometimes when we're shining down our heat, we gotta have the little burner. We gotta have the burner controller on.
Yeah,
Some people you want to get the heat just hot enough to to keep them around, so you can give the fire. To me, has always represented education,
yeah,
and a lot of the holy books are like fire, brimstone, all this stuff. But really, I think fire symbolically represents purification, or really purification is an education that a person embodies through insight. So these bugs, though they're attracted to the light, if we turn on our flame, pretty douse it down for them, maybe that's enough for them to stick around and get what they need, and send them on their way. Maybe have a little bit of food or something for them.
mm,
uh,
yeah,
attracting the souls is a great gift, but the problem is when we attract them, we don't know what to do with them.
mm,
And this is where we get like a kind of a guru syndrome. This is how like priesthood starts and all this stuff. Is people feel like because they have some type of knowledge, they're superior to others.
hmm,
And this isn't the sage on the stage kind of concept. Actually, I found that the most effective way of educating people was meeting them where they're at. So, you know, it's the co-learning model is what I call it. When as a tutor, there might be things that my students and I both don't know. When I say, hey, let's explore this together. There's a certain type of magic when two people come together that didn't know an answer, and now all of a sudden they know it through a conversation. I don't really understand how that happens,
hmm,
but it's a mystery for me, at least in my journey. That somehow I don't know it. That other person doesn't know. We talk and we figure it out. So light attracts them, but it's the heat from the bulb that will kill them. The light brings them in. So there's
yeah,
other ways of meeting them where they're at. And that means sometimes dimming the flame. That means sometimes turning it on a little bit hotter because they need that. And what I've noticed in the world today is the people's hearts are frozen. And so they have a high resilience to heat because of the layers of ice that are on their heart.
hmm.
And it's not until they inhale the steam of this melting, this vapor, that they notice that their heart was frozen in the first place.
I love that. Just you turn the light on.
And my friend who's a really great mentor of mine, I lived with her for many years. She's a Reiki master.
Mhm,
With the work that she does, speaking of the bugs, and what I used to do is I don't do it as much now, but she would get worn out. She was a drug and alcohol counselor, and she was a Reiki practitioner. So she spent her life, a big portion of her life, serving others and still doing that. And she asked me one day, she goes, what am I gonna do? I'm just so depleted. I'm so tired all the time. Like people are draining me. I said, it's at some point you have to be at a point where you realize that you need help. That you draw on a force that's greater than ourselves. Because us doing it, we're gonna get burnt out. And I told her,
mhm,
once you get tuned into that light, and once you get tuned in, and there's capacities for each human being, but once you get tuned in, like I was saying on the radio show, actually, that altruism is a muscle. Once you get attuned to that light, now all of a sudden you can the more social endurance you can have in your everyday life. And so the line I always tell her is, "Soul shine, come what may." Because if you're shining your light, like all the greats before us and all the greats that will come after us, um, you're not. There's nothing. You're not. You're in the right spot. Actually, by example, if we're not being persecuted for this, we actually might be doing something wrong.
Yeah. Man, Tyler, you also mentioned how you were able to stop people from depleting your light. I want to ask, how did you turn it around to where you were not in a state of depletion but benefiting your life force?
Yeah, I think the greatest gift that we have is the human intellect for this, and the intellect is its own light. And so when we have, they talk about this gift in some of the holy books, but really it's science is catching up to this level of discernment, and discernment has been what I've been using for the past 5 years to determine, first of all, if I can support this person. Do I have the means to support this person? And do I have the ability to meet them where they're at? And how can I best help this person without doing it for them? And a great educate means to draw out, not to put in. So we have to be discerning enough as teachers and educators, and we're all teachers and educators, and we're all also students. I think this. And so when we're doing this, we have to be able to be wise enough to scaffold, meaning like layer up, get them to do the steps to get to where they need to be to help themselves. And that's really hard when people are hurting and suffering. But that's all the more reason for us to, I mentioned the last show, to follow the acronym STAR: study, consult, action, reflect. This methodology has been very helpful for me throughout at least my adult life. My teenage life and young adult life, man, I'm still learning.
Indeed. So you tie in prima materia with friendship and healing. What role do relationships play in our personal transmutation process?
Yeah, that's a good question. The prima materia means the first material. So in alchemy, they take raw material, which is their first material, and then they turn it into something else. Generally, it's reference lead into gold or copper into gold, and the like. And so when it comes to doing that for ourselves with prima materia, friendship implies a boat. And I think we all should get on board because there's some ships that are fastly sinking. And this friendship is anchored in love. And so prima materia means that actually when we come from the womb of our mother, we are the material that we have to work with. Now, we didn't show up here on the planet by ourselves. We showed up with other human beings around. And so it is said in Jungian psychology that everyone is a mirror for everyone else. So we kind of get a gauge on where we're at in life because we get checked. I mean, I know I do throughout the day. If I'm reflecting on how my day went, there was times where I could have been a little bit better. And how do I know that though? Because there's a gauge, there's a mirror in front of me. Even now, there's a camera in front of me, and mirroring back all the movements that I'm doing. So this world, in some traditions, without getting too specific and too historical, this world is a mirror. It's the mirror world, kind of like Doctor Strange in a sense. When he gets into the mirror world, it was a safe place to practice his powers. So physically, it's maybe not the safest place to practice our powers, but psychologically and spiritually, it is a safe place because we're here to grow and learn and develop those powers. So when you find friends that have this growth mindset, you need other people to reflect back to you so you can make the corrections. That's why we have coaches. That's why we have teachers, that's why we have educators, so they can reflect back to us what we need to fine tune and correct. And then there's also systematically systems in our own bodies and minds and spirits that if we reflect on like our day, we could see where we didn't feel like something was right, but we could make those fine tunings and corrections.
Absolutely. Um, People are awakening to the knowledge of masculine and feminine energy. You referenced this in your book with the symbol of the Philosopher's Stones. Do you think we really understand these energies?
You know, I use the framework of Western alchemy to give this explanation because most of this book was written, that part section was written for the New Age community specifically. That being said, there are traditions that what's feminine in one tradition is masculine in another tradition. What's masculine in one tradition is feminine in another tradition. Even the words for sun and moon, which moon represents feminine energy in the Western alchemical sciences, and sun represents the masculine aspects of alchemy. But really, the goal is to get a person to realize, to enter a state of homeostasis or balance. And what these energies represent are qualities and attributes. So we have to get beyond the idea of feminine and masculine because it's cultural context. I mean, if you our cultural context for it is skewed and is more open to exploration at this point in time in our history. But there's other cultures that have been subscribing to this type of mentality for thousands of years. So really the main point of understanding the feminine and masculine is for a person to understand the qualities and attributes. Like, for example, the sun represents masculinity in the sense that it penetrates and it nurtures life. The moon represents the cool light that is given to the planet, and the roots of plants grow at night. So there's this interesting mystery about the moonlight, and in some alchemical practices, the moonlight was used to transmute metals. And there were certain rituals that you would do to do this, though it may be symbolic. So you have the heat and you have the coolness, and so understanding, without getting too very specific and long on this subject, there's qualities and attributes that represent. If we can embody those, feminine and masculine, those concepts go away because that dissolves and it enters into a state of unity. And if you look into prima materia, you might find the chimeric monster. That's the representation in some traditions. The chimeric monster was a hermaphrodite. It was a male and a female combined into one. And this represented that state of unity. And there's some traditions that believe that we actually started that way, that we were male and female, and then we separated and became two different species, that we actually came from a hermaphroditic culture originally. And this is just in some of the practice, some of the histories.
Okay. In which practice is this viewed in? I've never heard it.
If you look at Manly P. Hall's Secret History of the Ages, and you look in the section of alchemy, underneath that he goes into it. Manly P. Hall did a lot of history and research on occult mysteries.
Right.
Alchemy was one of his main things. So I get this idea that hermaphroditic monster. You can look it up. I mean, you could there's images, and you can find it pretty easily. Right. But it would kind of make sense if Eve came from the rib of Adam, or the ribosomes of Adam, or whatever it is, and
Uh,
it was split from him. I mean, a lot of these creation stories go like this, indigenous ones. Um, I didn't go into firm detail in the book. Like I said, it was a middle school level book, so I wanted to make sure my middle schoolers could read it.
yeah, yeah. I could see where, you know, we could say a rib turns into a person is alchemy
Hmm.
of some sort.
And in my book, I actually footnote where to find the specific source I got it from. His name was like Paul Lampert, Paul something. I don't know. It's not Lampert. It's some other guy. But I did put everything in my book. I footnoted for so people can go and reference the things that I'm writing about. I'm not an expert in this field. I'm just an ordinary amateur person that's interested in these subjects.
Yeah. Speaking of reference, you also reference Rami's quote, "You are not a drop in the ocean, but the ocean in a drop," which you said before. Um, how does this truth affect the way that we view responsibility, pain, and healing?
Yeah. Um, you know, the fact that we're an ocean in one drop, I think that if we realize that humanity is this one big, vast ocean, or some people would call it the mind, that we're all connected through, well, we primordially, we're all connected through water. At least
Hmm.
that's what science is telling us, that life came from water. And so, and evolved from water. So if that's the case, we all come from the same source, this ocean. And so, because of this ocean being where we all come from, it connects us. We need water to live, all of us do. So, the fact that we need water to live means that we should find the means to take care of the people who don't have water because we know it's something to live. So, we should realize that, or I recommend that we realize that because of this, we are our brothers and sisters, keepers, and we're supposed to look out for each other because if one part of the human system is hurting, it's all hurting. And now, especially because the world's getting smaller, people are becoming more empathetic because now they can really see what's going on all over the world. And so, recognizing this teaching creates altruism because now I'm like, I got to do something about this. Someone's hurting. Like their needs aren't being met. Their basic needs aren't being met. This is a problem with humanity, and I think this Rumi quote really explains that. Now, how it has to deal with pain is, like I said, if one part of the body's hurting, we got to help it out and use our knowledge to support those people.
And this is a purpose. What do you say to the hopeless and those in despair?
You know, I think that hopelessness and despair is a mechanism, meaning that you're in the book that I wrote about alchemy. It's the negrito. It's the darkened state. This darkened state is created as a mechanism for you to draw or call on a power that's greater, but also exists in yourself. When you do this, um, you will begin to realize that you can make a difference. That there's a power in the ordinary person. That every single person has an inherent power to be in a capacity to be able to make this world a better place. But it starts with you. If you're spending all your time watching the news and spending all your time worrying about what everyone else is going through, and you're not trying to bring yourself up to a state of homeostasis so that our ecosystem can be balanced, just know it's possible to come out from that, and it's just a mechanism. Um, One of my favorite lines. When calamity befalls you, be exceedingly glad, because these are the mercies of the great mystery. So we have to develop a sunny disposition, and it's you're having this experience possibly because you haven't spent enough time, like Michael Jackson says, to be the man in the mirror. and look at the things that you need to look at for you. So there's hope. I mean, there's power in the ordinary person, and I see it every day. And there's miracles every day. You got to focus on the positive and feed that, because that there's another part of that's inside of us. Like I tell my students, for positive psychology tells us that for every negative thing that we believe that's told to us, we need 7 positive things to negate that. So there's a lot of ways to get that positivity. Sometimes you got to create it yourself if you don't see it around you.
And what would you say is the first step into noticing what's around you?
The first step is to get out of your own way. You got to get out of your own way, because what happens is the Buddhists call it the monkey mind. There's this, or in transactional analysis, they call it the parent tapes. There's these voices in your head that aren't yours, that you've acquired over a series of time, that doesn't have to be your story. Those voices aren't your voice. You're the thing who's processing and listening to those voices. So you can, at any, life is a blank slate. You decide how you write your story, not those voices in your head. So the first thing is get out your own head. Stop talking to yourself. Stop talking to yourself in a sense of that, allowing those voices to be dominant over you. Because, like I said, for every negative, you got to have 7 positive, and that's a lot of work. So meditation practices are always good, so you can see what's going on in there and learn how to detach from those voices and those thoughts. But the first step is get out your own way, really.
Yeah. All right. And I could imagine they could find more about that in the great work.
Oh, yeah. There's reflective journal questions throughout. Yeah.
All right. There's also some poetry in the book as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Talk about that?
Yeah, I would love to talk about that. Actually, yeah, I would love to talk about that. You mind if I drop one?
Sure. I would love that.
All right. Let's see. Let me see what I got here. Let's see here. I didn't have one in mind, so I'm just rolling here. Okay, here is one. Actually, let's go with let's do that one. Something into nothing. This is a poem that I wrote. A vanish of real, accentuating surreal. A globe of infinite wonders. Dreams lifted by slumber. Infinite skyscrapers fill the spaces, concealing all the unknown places. Days that pass by and by. The echoes of a lonely sigh. Harnessing accumulated mass. A world of imaginary gas. I sit by the water day by day. A breeze blows. Nothing, I said.
I love it, man. That's beautiful.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
The poetry aspect, when I was writing the book, I was like, well, how do I get the people that aren't going to get the logistics of this, but still have something for them to chew on? So I'm thinking like my artistic friends. I'm thinking my people that are really in the abstract, and my lyricist friends. I'm like, well, I'll just write some lyrics. I'll make the poems and attempt to say the things that I can't say. And so that's most of the book. Actually, I prefaced the book as like, this is me attempting to teach and share the things that I don't think can be shared. But this is my attempt of doing that. So the poetry was, if you just read the poems enough for each chapter, that's enough to give you the spirit of what the chapter embodies.
I love it. All right, where can I connect with you on the internet, Tyler, and pick up a copy of the great work?
Yeah, so I'm on Amazon. You can look up Tyler Ray Mitchell, The Great Work. I'm on Facebook, Tyler Ray Mitchell. Run a little purple hat. And then I got my book trailer too on YouTube. You can find it just looking up Great Work, Tyler Ray Mitchell. You can check out a little bit more about some hype about the book. And yeah, reach out to me via Facebook or through my author page on Amazon.
All right. And those links will be in the description of this episode and in the show notes. So all you guys have to do is just click those links. The Great Work, Awakening the Light Within with Tyler Ray Mitchell. What a profound and soul-stirring conversation. Tyler Ray Mitchell reminded us that the seed is sacred. In our last conversation, service is spiritual. And symbols are more than metaphors. They are mirrors, as we are to each other. From inner alchemy to ancestral remembrance, Tyler's The Great Work is a call to awaken our divine inheritance, not through dogma, but through direct experience, insight, and love. Tyler, man, before we let you go, is there anything you want to leave the listeners with?
Yeah. The work that we do on ourselves is our gift to others.
Right. Simple but impactful and so true. If this conversation stirred something inside of you, follow Tyler Ray Mitchell and get your copy of The Great Work. Subscribe to Vigilantes Radio. Leave us a rating. Share this episode with your community. And if you want to support our mission, you can head over to buymeacoffee.com/Vigilantes Radio. Until next time, do the work, walk in light, and keep rising. Thank you so much, Tyler.
Thanks, Danny, for another easy one. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Talk soon.
Hey, blessings.
Peace to all. My name is Deanie, and I am the host of Vigilantes Radio Live. I think that we are beyond just asking cool questions and getting cool responses. I think that we are here as creatives to provide an example that you can do things different outside of expectations, because some of us simply were not born into the club. But there is perhaps a door, window, or back gate that we can leave a clue for you to get into. Life is short, but there are plenty of moments to try and get it right. Pursuing your dreams and learning from mistakes may be tough, but regret is tougher. To book your interview, email us at vradio@onlyonemediagroup.com. That's a V as in victorious, or visit onlyonemediagroup.com. I'm counting on you. Heaven, we all are counting on you to step into your purpose and your passion. You are listening to Vigilantes Radio Live on iHeartRadio, providing you with an opportunity to dive deeper.
You are now listening to Vigilantes Radio, the people's choice for quality interviews, art, music, and hot topics. Hosted by Demetrius Houdini Black Reynolds. All episodes of this podcast are available for free download at www.onlyonemediagroup.com.